Today we'll be discussing types of business entities in the IB Business and Management syllabus for the exam sessions of May 2024 and onwards. This is a really brief topic and it's quite an easy topic to wrap your head around. It is, of course, an important topic, though none of them are unimportant, and it's important, especially because it's a fundamental for everything that you will do in business. So first, the IB guide connections. Um, this is what the syllabus shows you, what the IB guide shows you. As you can see, it's a majority of AO3, which means that you will need to know this in order to succeed for your 10 markers, for your paper 3, for your paper 1 especially. And yeah, there's not a lot of info, but they are kind of information dense. First, we'll start with public and private sector and the difference between both. The private sector, excuse me, is run and controlled by individuals. It is fully funded by said individuals, could be corporations, organizations, etc. It provides a product or a service, or a product and a service that fulfill wants of customers and are focused on profits but can have a social purpose. The other hand, public sectors are run and controlled by the government. They are funded by the government and they provide essentials to the general public rather than wants that are demanded by customers. They usually have a social purpose, however, some governments can profit and reinvest into their country. For profit, non profit, and for profit social enterprises. Most companies in the world are for profit enterprises, such as Apple and Microsoft, and their activities are mostly geared towards maximizing financial returns and growth. Nonprofit enterprises are also known as nonprofit organizations or not for profit, and they operate with the aim of serving a specific social, cultural, or educational purpose. Unlike a for profit, their main focus is on providing a benefit, and they generally rely on donations, grants, and fundraising. So, an example is the Red Cross. A for profit social enterprise combines aspects of both profit and non profit models. So, while they seek to generate profits, its primary mission is to create a positive social or environmental impact, such as Tom's with their One for One initiative. So, here's a little way that you can kind of distinguish it, and unless mentioned otherwise, these sections are how the different organizations are usually categorized. So limited and unlimited liability is a really important concept that you have to wrap your head around in order to succeed in business. Limited liability is it kind of keeps everything that you've put into a business separate from the business's problems, while unlimited liability connects your stuff to the business's troubles. So most big companies have limited liability as to not risk losing everything they own if things were to go wrong. It basically just means that if you were to put in $100,000 into a company, you're only limited to lose that much. However, if you were to put $100,000 in an unlimited liability company, you are liable to lose unlimited amounts of money. So this is the first type of business entity, which is a sole trader. This is an individual who owns and runs their own business, but can have employees. It's just that that one person has 100% equity in a sense. So the advantages and the disadvantages of a sole trader, I find to be quite common sense. I mean, you have full control, you have direct profits. It's quick decision making because there's no one to really question your decision making. But obviously, with one person comes a lot of disadvantages. You have really slow growth, limited expertise, limited resources, and high financial risks because this is an unlimited liability type of company. Next, we have partnerships, which take the advantages of a sole trader and completely almost quenches them. So, sorry, the disadvantages, excuse me. So you can share the workload, you have diverse skills and shared resources, and you have obviously strong financial strength. On the flip side, though, partners may disagree. Decision making is slower. Shared profits, which is no one likes, and unlimited liability once again. So these are the first. This is the first of the two private limited liability companies, which is a privately held company. So this business is owned by a relatively small number of people, and those shares are not publicly traded on stock exchanges. So in order to share shares, you have to physically go and sell them to friends and family. So advantage is that you have greater control because it's only people that you want that can take shares and have, I guess, equity. It's flexible in its decision making, and it's confident. It remains everything that's said is remain in confidence. So they're not required to disclose financial and operational information to the same extent as publicly traded firms. On the other hand, some disadvantages is that there's less access to capital, so they have to rely on investors, bank loans, or retained earnings, unlike having the ability to just share shares. Excuse me. There's a lack of liquidity and regulatory burdens which they still have to face. Regulatory burdens not as much as publicly held companies, but still to a certain extent. Now, publicly held companies are corporations whose shares are traded on public stock exchanges. So, in order to be a publicly held company, you have to have an IPO from a privately held company. So this just means you have massive access to capital, really good liquidity, which is a measure of how much you can pay off your debts, and increased visibility and prestige. Someone on a company on a stock market just enhances the company's visibility and credibility among customers, suppliers, and potential partners. So it's a huge point in order to grow the business. Excuse me. This comes with a cost though. You have to please your short term shareholders. There are people that want to invest like thousands of dollars into your company, but you have to make them happy because they are at the end of the day a shareholder. You lose control and transparency of your company. You're susceptible to hostile takeovers, and you have to comply with more regulations than before. So a cooperative still is an unlimited liability company. They share resources, have democratic decision making, and social and economic empowerment, which are its advantages. And it's basically a massive partnership uh, with equal goals, decision making, and profits. They don't aim to make a profit as such, or at a large scale as publicly held and privately held companies would, but and they aim to kind of reach more of a need or a goal. They suffer from management challenges because generally there's no leader or a professional management. They have a really low access to capital. They don't have any shares to sell. Their only source of income generally is their revenue, so what the things that they're able to sell. And this also leads for a lot of potential for conflict because democratic decision making always does. It's in the nature. And finally, to look at NGOs, which are organizations that are independent of the government, focus on social, environmental, or humanitarian issues through advocacy or direct community services. You don't see these as much, but you will in the paper 3 if you do HL. An advantage of an NGO is that they have the potential to create significant positive social impacts, which can increase, the amount of donations they get, and subsequently the revenue, the flexibility and the innovation, and the community empowerment that comes with it, of course. However, they lack a lot of funding because there's nothing that they really sell. There's no product or no source of cash flow. They are constrained by bureaucratic reasons. They have to comply with a bunch of government regulations, report requirements, and administrative burdens, which can divert resources which are already so scarce. And they are dependent and really unsustainable. So they provide short term aid, but they can't build the long term sustainable solutions as much as they would like to, unless your amnesties, your Médecins Sans Frontières, and your Red Crosses, which are of course able to do this, but that's after a lot of funding, a lot of years, and just a lot of luck, I guess. Anyway, these are the business entities that you really need to know inside and out in order for you to succeed in business. They may seem simple, but truly they are the fundamentals for everything that comes in the future. So, thank you.